Milk, milk, milk. Those milk exports depend on a competitive single currency as well. The euro did edge up against the dollar a little this week, but overall it's down about 25% over last year. Now that's great for U.S. tourists looking for a cheap break in Paris or Rome, but it's the Eurozone that really needs a break right now. I talked about this with Peterson Institute's economist Jacob Kirkegaard and asked him where he sees the value of the dollar going next.
The US dollar is going to be considerably stronger than we have seen for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years for quite some time. I mean, I think the US dollar strength is here to stay, basically. It's a combination of the Federal Reserve being sort of ahead of the curve that for many other central banks, and then the fact that, reflecting that, then the fact that the US economy is doing relatively better than the rest of the world.
Does this give Europe the boost they've been looking for? I mean, they've tried time and time again by cutting rates and doing the stimulus and the bond buying and all these meetings and trying to make Europe as progressive as possible when it comes to fiscal policy and providing stimulus for the economy. But nothing is bigger than having a weak currency, because that's ultimately going to help their exporters and probably drive tourism as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that this is certainly a major short-term boost for the euro area. I mean, because we have seen a substantial decline now in the euro, not just against the dollar, but even on the sort of broader trade-weighted basis. It's down between 15 on a trade-weighted and almost a quarter, 25% now vis-a-vis the dollar, more or less continuously over the last 15 months or so. This does matter. And I think you will see, most important for the euro area, it actually is a kind of stimulus that affects the entire euro area. It's not just a stimulus that goes to Germany, which obviously are big export nations. And there's no doubt that German firms are going to have much better margins as a result of this.
Is this for the common person watching this? They may not understand the details of how currencies move, but is this about the U.S. being strong or about the European Union in terms of the economy being weak, which is why we're seeing that spread seemingly get wider and wider?
I think it's really a combination of both. It's certainly an issue here that the U.S. is doing better than the rest of the world, certainly doing better than Europe. And then it's not so much European weakness, I would say, because actually the European economy are also beginning to pick up. But part of that pickup comes from the fact that the European Central Bank has begun its quantitative easing program, which clearly has had a depreciating effect, has brought down the value of the euro. So it's a combination of European monetary policy and U.S. economic strength.
Will this help, because the euro is weak and you've got the quantitative easing, will this help foreign investment when it comes to going to Europe, whether it's from Asia or the U.S., because assets will look cheaper and cheaper, at least relative to your home country?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt that if you have dollars with which to buy assets in the euro area, you can get a much better price today than you could just a few months ago. So I certainly believe that there will be quite a lot of more foreign investments into the euro area, because it's quite an open area. There are, for investments, there are not the kind of geopolitical, national security concerns that you may encounter here in the United States. They're there, but not nearly to the same extent. So yeah, Europe is open for business.
Is Greece a part of this equation? I mean, there's been talk recently, once again, that they could be out of the euro completely. And let me reiterate, that's just talk for now.
Yeah, I don't think that Greece is ultimately going to drop out of the euro. At the end of the day, I think the real question is whether or not the current Greek government will survive or not whether Greece drops out of the euro. But it's also worth remembering that Greece is 2% of the eurozone, less than 2% of the eurozone, which means that on current growth projections, in 12 months' time, another Greece will have been added to Eurozone GDP. So it really doesn't matter that much, despite being in the headlines.